So these were the temperatures I got. And it was fluctuating. The Steam game peaked at 73 degrees C, C as in centigrade, while the HTML5 game peaked at 74, which is higher. And my fan, although I didn't have any data for the fan on the HTML5 game, the fan was at 75%. Like it was like the maximum RPM for the fan on my laptop is 5,000, and this time it was running at 4,000, so that's a little over 70%, 75%. So Gemini tells me that the data shows that the Steam platform gives a flat line, even though it's high, even though it's at 70. It's a steady temperature. It maintains the general processing area on the laptop at around a consistent temperature, a flat line, whereas the HTML5 browser game was spiky. So it was mostly low, and then at certain points it would spike up to these peaks of 70. So Gemini says that that is not good. It's better to have the Steam situation of a flat line rather than a spiky. So here's the analysis of Gemini. Gemini is like, the Steam results show a very stable thermal profile. The CPU stays locked between 70 and 73. To sustain load, this suggests the local game engine is providing a constant predictable load on the processor, even though it is light. It is taxing the CPU continuously to maintain a frame rate, physics, and background processor. Thermal saturation, your fan is running at approximately 77%, which is what I was talking about earlier, of its maximum speed, which is around 5,000 RPM. The fact that the temperature isn't rising further indicates your cooling system is reached an equilibrium. It is successfully moving heat out as fast as, which is good, but I don't like my CPU sitting at a high temperature. Then about the HTML5, the browser game, the numbers show volatility according to Gemini. So there's bursty performance. HTML5 games often rely on JavaScript, which tend to be bursty. The CPU spikes to 74 during asset loading or complex calculation, but then drops back to 40. I like this profile. I like my computer running at a low temperature and then maybe just peaking to deal with something before reverting back. I prefer it staying at a low temperature, but Gemini disagrees, says that that's not good. Anyway, efficiency and optimization for the HTML5 browser game. While the peak was higher, the average temperature is significantly lower than the Steam game. Browser engines are designed to throttle back the moment a task is finished, whereas local game engines often loop as fast as possible unless a frame rate limiter like VSync is enabled. So should I read on? No. Let's just see the summary. In summary, your laptop is performing well within the safe limits. Both scenarios stay far below the 100 degrees critical threshold where damage or shutdown occurs. The Steam engine is a heavier load than you expected because it is a constant load, whereas the browser game is an inconsistent one. So then I asked Gemini, I'm contemplating as to whether I should simply uninstall the Steam platform and stick with HTML5 games, which is what I wanted to do. Should I uninstall my Steam engine and just, since I mostly play those HTML5 games, I play them because they're light on my computer and I don't have to pay. Most of the games are basically free, just have to deal with ads. I mean, if I did go on Steam, still I'll be playing the 2D light games because this computer is a 4th gen CPU. It's way too... I've already killed an i5, 4th gen i5 motherboard playing HTML5 games, so I don't want to kill this one as well. So I'm sticking with light games. Anyway, so thermal risk assessment. Technically, there are no immediate dangers to your hardware from running the Steam engine. The safe zone, your CPU is running at 72. Most laptop processors are designed to operate safely at 85 to 90 degrees. I do not want this. Damage only occurs if the system stays near 100 degrees centigrade consistently. So consistency versus spikes. The Steam game provides a flat heat profile, which is actually easier on the hardware than the spiky profile of an HTML5 game. Rapid heating and cooling, expansion and contraction can sometimes be more stressful on the motherboard's solder joints than a steady, moderate temperature, which is what got me to think a bit and maybe post this on my channel. What Gemini is saying here is that having inconsistent peaks as the motherboard heats up, that can mess up the motherboard's solder joints, whereas when you have a constant high temperature where everything goes up at the same time, stays high at the same time, and then later on everything cools down at the same time, then that becomes better for the motherboard. So I still feel if the whole motherboard is chilled at 75 degrees, then those solder joints don't really expand beyond their critical range. So I believe that the motherboard remains healthy, whereas Gemini is saying no. Even at these 70 degrees Celsius, those joints are expanding and contracting inconsistently, and that is going to mess up the motherboard. Okay, then the next one is performance and efficiency. The data suggests that the HTML5 games are lighter in terms of average resource consumption, but they are less optimized. The browser overhead. Browsers like Firefox and Chrome, I usually play on Firefox. Browsers like Firefox and Chrome are memory intensive, while the CPU temperature was lower on average. The browser likely used more RAM than the light Steam engine. The Steam advantage: local games are usually better at utilizing your GPU. On your Steam logs, the GPU was at 16 degrees, which suggests it was barely taxed, but the integrated graphics were handling the load efficiently. So here's the comparison table. In this blow-by-blow Steam versus HTML5, the HTML5 wins on average heat. It loses on stability. It wins, so it's a draw there. System load, it loses there as well. The Steam load is predictable while the HTML5 isn't, so Steam is in the lead. Battery drain, the Steam is gonna drain my laptop battery much quicker than the HTML5 game, so the HTML5 wins some points back, so it's back to 2-2. Then the decider becomes efficiency. So the Steam has high efficiency because it has direct hardware access, whereas the HTML5 has low efficiency because of abstraction layers. So in summary, according to Gemini, the Steam situation is in the lead. I should stick with Steam. But here's its recommendation: keep Steam if you value a smoother and more stable frame rate. You play for longer sessions where stable temperature is better than a constant fluctuation. You have specific titles you enjoy that are not available on the web versions. Uninstall Steam if your laptop fan noise is at 4,000 RPM. Oh, if the fan noise is a distraction. No, it isn't. Uninstall if you are primarily concerned with keeping the chassis cool to the touch. Uninstall if you only play games for short bursts, 5 to 10 minutes, whereas where the HTML5 bursty profile is more energy efficient. So a potential middle ground: before uninstalling, you could try a tool like Mango HUD or the built-in Steam launch options to limit your frame rate. If the light game is running at 120 FPS, limit it to 30 or 50 FPS. This would likely drop your temperature from 72 to okay. So it's blaming the high temperature on frame rates. I don't think frame rates were an issue, but yeah. So that was my question. Should I uninstall? Is Steam really a stressful system for an old laptop? A 4th gen i3. I'm running a 4th gen i3 Dell Latitude laptop, and Dell laptops are infamous for the heat problems around the CPU. They're always, I've already destroyed 2. Okay, I've destroyed 1 Dell laptop already with overheating issues, and I am worried. Let me stop the whole story there and post.